Demystifying the Oedipus complex. Sigmund Freud, the father of psychoanalysis, who proposed the idea that human behavior are largely influenced by our unconscious mind, contrary to the most popular perspective of psychology at that time, which is behaviorism, that psychology should only be studied by the objective meaning of behavior meaning by the things that we can only observe. This, of course, revolutionized the way we think psychology. Before, we only account the things that we can only observe, such as behavior, without thinking its inner psychological processes, or structuralism or functionalism that studies psychology as a new science. Sigmund Freud gives a different idea, a different look on psychology, by taking account the things we don't see, the inner psychological processes that our brain makes. Many people agree with these premises, but some do not. One of those ideas that sparks a lot of controversies and a lot of debates is Sigmund Freud's psychosexual stages. The psychosexual stages is a theory that describes how personality develops and changes throughout childhood. According to Freud, from birth to adolescence, children, or men alike, pass through a series of stages centered around the erogenous zones of the body. These erogenous zones are where pleasure are centered upon. How we deal with the crisis centered on those erogenous zones at a certain point of stages determines how we act later in life, or in this case, determines on how we act on the next stage. There are 5 distinct stages that people go through in life, according to the psychosexual stages. In brief, there is the first stage, the oral stage, the second stage, the anal stage, the third, the phallic stage, fourth, the latency stage, the fifth, the genital stage. In this video, we're not going to focus on all of those stages, but we're going to focus on the most controversial parts of Freud's legacy, which is the phallic stage. Specifically, the Oedipus complex, one of the most controversial and still debated topics till this day. The phallic stage follows around age 3 to 6 years. The genitals becomes the new erogenous zones and children develop sexual feelings for the opposite sex. This manifests into the opposite sex parents. Boys would allegedly desire their mothers and see their fathers as a rival. This is what Freud called the Oedipus complex after the Greek mythology of Oedipus. From the description alone, the most common misconception about the Oedipus complex is that it is a conscious attraction. It is not. It is a subconscious natural part of development that influences our behavior. This is backed by the idea of fixations. The idea that if we don't solve a conflict on a stage, we'll develop fixation to that later on in life. For example, in the oral stage, if we are late being weaned from breast to bottle feeding, we might develop a mouth-relating behavior fixations later in life, such as overeating, smoking, drinking, and so on. In the case of phallic stage, we develop a fixation on a partner that acts like our parents. Our needs for love then manifest into increased attachment to finding someone that acts like our own parents. So, in hindsight, the conflict of the phallic stage is a child's idea of love and lust. In this stage, a child needs love and affection from their parents, but their idea of love is distorted by lust, the growing curiosity in genitals area and growing feeling of attraction towards different sex. This is where the popular phrase of boys will fall in love with a girl who looks like their mother comes from. This idea that all we want is love from our parents, but it is distorted by the growing lust and the growing attachment towards a different gender. There are, of course, criticism for the man himself, Sigmund Freud, or for the theory. Freud's ideas were controversial, especially the Oedipus complex, which many saw as promoting incest. Most psychologists even reject the theory. But even with all that said, a lot of psychologists can't deny and still recognize Freud's influence in making the unconscious mind a focus of analysis. While the Oedipus complex remains a contentious concept, we cannot deny that families play a crucial role in shaping our personalities and relationships. By understanding psychosexual developments and the root of desires, we can better understand and comprehend our motivations and tendencies as adults. While Freud's stages may not encompass all personality, reflecting on our earliest attachment and fixations can provide insight into who we truly are.